Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I've got a little presentation prepared and some demos, so I think let's just get into it. But let me share my screen, which should start right here, I think. Let me know if you can see those slides. Perfect. So, ENS. We're going to go over a few things today, some of which you guys probably already know, some of which you might not. Um, Starting with what is ENS, why is it important, who uses it today, what does the future of ENS look like, and how to actually take those steps and integrate ENS into your project today if you wanted to. And I'm going to try and convince you why you should. So first of all, what is ENS? I think when ENS started, it was really this idea of a Web3 username, and now it's moving towards more of a Web3 profile. And so at the basis, anywhere you read or write an Ethereum address, or really any crypto address, which we'll get into later, you should be able to use an ENS name. And so really just looking at this picture on the side, it's like, which of these transactions look better, right? Is it the one where you can see Luke is sending something to Greg Skril, or is it when you're seeing that I'm sending something to OX554F3B and so on? I think the answer there is pretty obvious. Names are better than addresses in pretty much every sense. Um, Another way you'll see ENS names in the wild is on different apps and websites. So you can see right here, when you're connected to most, I'd say at this point, Web3 websites, you'll see your name and maybe even your avatar resolved in these websites, kind of identifying you as your ENS name because it truly is your Web3 profile. Moving even more into that, our new ENS Manager app really leans into this profile sense of having connected accounts and other records and descriptions, websites, etc. And just to like hone in that idea, really any of these sites that you go to on the bottom use ENS text records in some sense, or at least an ENS address, to really represent that sense of profile. And just like your ENS profile goes all around Web3 with you, and that is rooted in ENS. So why is it important? If not already obvious from the beginning, it's fun, it's cool, portable, extensible, multi-chain. It's a public good, decentralized, and at the end of the day, the key feature is that it improves the crypto user experience, right? So take Ethereum, for example, which was the first ecosystem that ENS supported. The ENS logo is actually a design around the Ethereum logo, meaning it's supporting the ecosystem. And that's kind of where it all comes from, right? That was the original intention. That's what it does best. And all the other things are great, but at the end of the day, just a bonus. So who uses ENS today? If you're listening to this, hopefully you do. And if not, we can help you get set up really shortly. But I'll just go into a few more specifics really. So well, more than a few more specifics. So this huge list is just part of our ecosystem integrations on ENS.domains. I can keep scrolling and keep scrolling, but you get the idea. There are a lot of integrations. And this isn't to like kind of show off in any way, right? ENS makes sense to integrate. And so a lot of people or a lot of projects have integrated it. And on the other sense, maybe more related to this specific hackathon is integration from DAOs. And so this is a dashboard that I created at adoption.ensdao.org that you can check out if you want. It's interactive and everything. Basically, tracks which DAOs on Snapshot specifically using that data from that, but basically which DAOs have the highest adoption of ENS, meaning which of their voters use ENS to basically display their choice in votes. And really, this is because ENS just makes governance better. Having an identity that you know is voting allows you to really see what's going on in a much more easy way. And so here you can see the adoption of different text records and just ENS in general amongst some of the top DAOs in the space, at least the top DAOs according to Snapshot in recent months. And so again, that's adoption.ensdao.org if you're interested. And we're going to get into how you can do this as well. So yeah,
Can I jump in, Greg? Why is it capped at 100? The past, like the voters, is that the limit, or could there be more?
There can definitely be more. That is just a limitation I was running into with the snapshot API when making this dashboard specifically. It has nothing to do with any limitation of ENS at all.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Um, cool. And so, yeah, just really reiterating, it's that ENS is built for everyone and everything. It's for DAOs, it's for little hackathon weekend projects, which is how I got started building on ENS. It's for venture-backed startups who are building on top of the ENS ecosystem, and it's for publicly traded crypto exchanges. As you'll see in a second, basically a huge range, any range you can imagine from the smallest to the biggest crypto projects are using and supporting ENS. And so it's hard to believe that you, as somebody who might be building on ENS, will not fit in here. Cool. So we talked about what ENS was, right? The initial just Web3 username, just a name to an address, and how it's becoming more of a profile. And now let's kind of think about what it might look like in the future based on things that already work or are becoming more popular and just easier. So these two categories are probably what's most exciting to me right now. Definitely some others, but the two categories that I'm thinking of are importing DNS names, so DNS importing, and off-chain subnames, right? So there are kind of a few pieces there. Subnames are something that's been supported in ENS for a while, or subdomains, whichever word you choose. And doing these off-chain names opened up the door for a few cool new things, right? So we'll start at DNS. Importing a DNS name to ENS is something that most people don't realize is even possible. But one of those things that when you see, it really just makes sense, right? ENS truly respects the existing DNS space. ENS respects internet infrastructure and is really a piece of it, an extension of it. And so any DNS name, or I should say, right now, a majority of DNS names, meaning .com, .xyz, and so on, can be imported into ENS and work across the ecosystem without any protocol fee at all. And so if you own name.com, that can be, you can send, if the owner of name.com configured it in a certain way, then you can go into any wallet of your choosing and send ETH to name.com, right? So you can imagine it as just upgrading a DNS name. Right now, this is possible, like I said, but kind of just inconvenient because it costs quite a bit of gas to basically submit a proof that the owner of name.com owns name.com. But soon-ish, that is going to be completely gasless while still remaining free on the protocol level. So this is what I'm really excited for, when it really just takes a few DNS text record changes, or a few DNS sec kind of like configurations to DNS enable, or really just like crypto enable your existing DNS domain. To me, that's like opening up the world of crypto to every DNS name owner, and that's really exciting. Next would be off-chain subnames. Oftentimes, this is used kind of in parallel or connected to DNS names, but it doesn't have to be. And similarly here, there is no ENS protocol fee. It allows devs ultimate flexibility because, again, the names are off-chain. So off-chain really more accurately means off mainnet Ethereum. And so taking a step back, ENS by default, everything is on mainnet Ethereum, right? All the different contracts, your records are stored and everything. But if you want the option to, you can kind of move this off-chain, or at least move certain parts of the name off-chain. And so the few examples of that right now would be Coinbase, Nifty Chat, and a few others. And what that means is that I can create subnames or edit the records of my name in really any data store that I want. So Coinbase, for example, has this DNS domain cb.id, right? It has nothing to do with .eth. You at the service wouldn't think that it's related to ENS, but really any user of Coinbase Wallet can claim a cb.id username for free, and instantly, again, for free, that works across the entire crypto ecosystem, really. And so when I was testing it out, I got ENS's cool.cb.id, right? And if you were to go in MetaMask and send ETH to ENSiscool.cb.id, it would work. And that is totally free for me. It's totally free for Coinbase. It is totally off chain. And stuff like this is extremely cool to like give new users a crypto username basically, or a crypto profile without having to pay anything. And I think this is going to be more and more popular in the future. Somebody from our team actually made a new project this weekend called worldcoin.name. And so anybody who is WorldCoin verified can claim a free subname just as a demo of how it works during a hackathon. And I think it was really cool and worth highlighting. And I guess just taking a step back, all of this is made possible by CCIP read, which is an Ethereum protocol, nothing really specific to ENS, and that is EIP 3668. Sorry if there's background noise. And that enables exactly what I've been talking about, of really just off mainnet Ethereum data lookups. And so I can kind of show you a live demo of that later if anybody's interested. But this is another topic that I'm personally really excited about. Cool. If there are any questions leading up to this point, just on like the ideas of what ENS is, maybe how it works or why it works or where it's going, I'm happy to answer them. And then if not, we can go into coding time for just a few quick demos. So I will wait a few seconds. Cool. So coding time. I figure, oh, I'm only sharing Figma, aren't I? One sec. Desktop. Okay, cool. Do you see my whole screen now, I believe? Amazing. So I have two demos prepared. One is a kind of back-end environment, and one is a front-end environment. I'll start off by doing the back-end one. Or actually, I'll start off by doing the front-end one. So this is a website I made recently, right? At the surface, it looks like it has nothing to do with ENS, because, yeah, at the surface, it doesn't. But it has a cool ENS feature built in that I think is worth displaying, right? So a lot of people think that kind of reverse resolving an ENS name, so going from an address to a name instead of a name to an address, is a really slow process and inconvenient. And so a lot of the time just like think to skip it, but it's actually a lot easier and faster than people think. And so what I mean by that is most of the time you're resolving these names one by one. And so it's just a lot of like requests on the technical side, right? And that is never ideal. But there's a relatively new library from the ENS Labs team called ENS.js, and it allows you to do a lot of these operations in batch requests, and so it's super fast and super convenient. And so just narrowing or like nailing down the idea before of anywhere you see an Ethereum address or any crypto address, but we'll stick to Ethereum for now. It should show an ENS name. That's exactly what this is going to do. So let me refresh this page, and I'm going to create a list of anybody who has created a proposal in nouns, right? That sentence is totally irrelevant, but either way, it's going to create a list of over 100 Ethereum addresses, and you can see it here. And you can see that all of those addresses resolved ENS names in, what was that, less than a second. And these are all fetched live, right? There's no cache or anything like that. It is fetched on chain and supports off-chain names as well, like I was explaining before, via CCIP read and that whole thing, right? So I just wanted to like really crush that idea of ENS is only for like when there's one name on a page or something like that. It can be used in pretty much any environment, and it should be, because when I'm scanning this list, I have so much more context now that I see these names versus just a list of addresses. These addresses mean basically nothing to me. And as for understanding, hopefully, everything is more meaningful when it has an ENS name, or at least on-chain activity for now, we could limit it to that, is more meaningful when there is an ENS name attached. And so this is what I'm going to show first in the backend environment. Cool. So here I have an extremely simple script, right? Less than 25 lines of code, some of which is just example addresses. And this is using, here, let me zoom in a little bit here. And this is using ENS.js, as I explained before, right? And ENS.js like many other things in the Ethereum ecosystem, is built on top of Ethers, which is just a Web3 JavaScript library. Cool. And so what we're doing here is creating a provider, which is basically an RPC provider, how you talk to the Ethereum network. And we're setting up some stuff with ENS.js, and then we're going to give it a list of addresses. If anybody has an Ethereum address that they want me to include in here, feel free to drop it in the chat, and I can just for fun. But no need; these ones will work. And so right here, I just have 4 Ethereum addresses, and I'm going to show you exactly how we resolve all of those in one go. Cool. So we have those addresses, and then this is the little ENS badge thing. Literally 1 line or 2 lines if you want to make it look pretty. And I'm going to go ahead and run this, and it should just work, right? So this top name is mine. It returns everything in order. This one is make.e. The third one is validated.e. The last one is token.e. And it's really that simple, right? It's, for all intents and purposes, this is the main line of code, and it resolves any number of names in a single request. And that is exactly what I'm doing in this website that I was showing you before. So if you ever need to resolve a huge list of names together, then this is what you want to use. Again, it is called @ENS domains /ENS.js. And there's documentation and everything on it, and I'm obviously happy to help if you need it. And another, like, simpler, I guess, instance of how you can resolve an ENS name in a more like 1-by-1 basis, again, sorry for the background noise, is in a React app, right? So it's very popular in Web3 development to use React, and especially Next.js, which is just a React framework. I'm using this Web3 starter template of mine, which I can drop in the chat because I think it's probably useful. And it's really just a React app with a few things that I like, right? And this is what I personally use to start new projects, and it will be very, very simple to go from what's out of the box in that to resolving an ENS name. And so I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Cool. And this time I don't have pre-written code, so I'm not taking the cheap way out. Sweet. So let's say I want to go back to this other project real quick and just grab an address. And what I want to do is resolve that address into a name and put it on a page, right? Right now, I did not open that page. Right now we have a blank page in this tab called Web3 Starter. There's absolutely nothing here. But we're going to change that. So what I want to do here is use a wonderful tool called WAGME. And I'm not going to pretend like I memorize all these docs. I'm going to open up the docs like I normally would, and I'm going to share those docs in the chat because I want to encourage being a normal person and not memorizing every doc possible. Cool. So what we want to do here is literally just copy the docs. If you use this Web3 starter template, then the WAGME library is already installed, so you don't have to worry about that at all. You can literally just copy and paste as is. So we're importing this really nice hook called use ENS name. And as you can imagine, it basically does everything for us, right? We're just taking the cheap way out. So I'm gonna go over here again, and as normal programmers do, copy and paste. And this is really most of it, right? From this use ENS name hook, we get a few things. If the data, most importantly, which I'm going to rename to ENS name, just to be super precise, right? And then for all intents and purposes of this demo, I don't really care so much if there's an error or it's loading. I'm just going to show it if it exists, and if it doesn't, then I'm going to show the address. Cool. And so, like I said before, I'm going to use my address as an example. So let's just use that. I'm going to create a variable called address, and that is just going to be my address. Very simple. Now, let's replace the WAGMI demo with my address. And so you can see here, what we're doing is pulling their use-ENS name hook with the address, with my address, the address we passed in, right? And just to simplify the code, delete that. It's the same exact thing. And this is literally all you need. I'm gonna give us some more space. Cool. So now we have the code necessary to resolve the name, but our page is still blank because we haven't decided to show the name on the page. And so now let's show the name on the page. I'm going to use these little curly brackets and put the ENS name, right? And this ENS name can either exist or it might not exist. Like in the case a minute ago when we were doing the other script and Luis's name didn't, it worked, but there was no name there. Then we can't show an ENS name because there's no ENS name. So we're going to show the ENS name, or we're going to show the address, right? So this is basically saying if there is an ENS name, show it. Otherwise, just show the address, right? Now I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back over here. And because I have an ENS name set, then there's my ENS name, right? And that's it. The code that we used for that is literally, I would say, 2 lines, or let's just for the sake of being able to say it's 1 line. This is all you need to resolve an ENS name in React, or if you have the configurations set up like I do in Web3 Starter. And just for fun, let's change this to a different address, right? I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back to React. And now nick.eth, right? I do not have the name nick.eth in my code at all. I didn't have the name greg.eth. I have a random Ethereum address, or not a random Ethereum address. I have an Ethereum address. And if that has an ENS name set, then I'm going to show that ENS name. And these few lines of code really will make any user experience in crypto significantly better. And as you can see, like there's really no reason not to do it. It's extremely simple, it's extremely fast, and it benefits everyone, you, your users, and so on. Any questions here, or is it cool if I go back to the slides? Happy to answer any coding questions or attempt more live coding without breaking things. Wait a few seconds. Cool. So I'm going to assume that's clear. I will shut this down and head back into the slides. So coding time, as you saw, whether you want to resolve a single name at a time or resolve literally hundreds of names in a single request, they're both pretty simple. I think a lot of people assume ENS is this large, complicated thing, and maybe it is if you look at the contracts and so on. But just from a front end perspective, as somebody building a project in a hackathon, for a DAO, for a huge startup, for really any scale project, implementing ENS can and usually is extremely simple. And again, benefits your users and is free. Cool. And this isn't going to the next page. Okay, wonderful. So just to wrap up, irrespective of what you're building, you should always be resolving ENS names because, first of all, governance is more meaningful when there are identities attached. Would you rather look at a huge string of random bytes, or would you rather look at name.eth, right? I don't know about you, but I would imagine your answer is name.eth. I know mine is. And just to kind of clean that up a little bit, we know everything. We know governance is more meaningful when there are identities attached. But if we take a step back, really, it's just like, okay, you could say Web3 is more meaningful when there are identities attached. And then you take a step back again, and it's really not just Web3. It's everything, right? Everything is more meaningful when there are identities attached. And ENS is for everything. So let's build for everything. And as an extension, let's build for everyone. And that's what I got for you. ENS is built for everyone. And I hope you consider integrating it into your app. If you need any help, I'm happy to help. And I hope this demo was useful in some way.